Welcome back, Red Spotters. Another show in the Red Spotlight podcast. I'm your host, Alexis J. Soto, joined by Mr. David Francisco, and that means we have returned for yet another installment of our Loki recap series. Every week we come here and we break down the episode. David leads us as we discuss it in sequence, of course, with all spoilers. But before we do that, we do give our initial impressions and feelings of the episode in a spoiler-free fashion, although how we do that this week is going to be a bit difficult, though, because a lot of things happen, that's for sure, on this week's episode, which is, I believe, the fourth episode, and I believe it was called, I forgot what it was called, but episode 3 was called, I think, Lamentus, and episode 4 is, hold on, I need to look this up real quick. I had it and then I lost it. This will all be edited out. I just need to make sure I have the damn name of it. Which you'd think would be pretty easy to find. Hello? Okay, alright. So today we're discussing the fourth episode of this first season of Loki, and it is called The Nexus Event. Last time we discussed episode 3, so here we are. Before we get into the discussion, obviously, on the episode, we do have some things to catch up on that I believe David hasn't had the chance to comment on as of yet. So before we get there, we are going to have a brief discussion on the reactions to Black Widow, which is imminent at this point. And one big movie that Peter Martinez and I will be talking about on the show sometime within the next 2 weeks. And then also to get David's thoughts on the recent trailer, the new trailer to Shang-Chi, which featured some interesting characters, shall we say. Before that, I also want to remind everyone, of course, you can catch our podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts, whether it be on Apple, Spotify, CastBox, iHeartRadio, YouTube, TuneIn, Stitcher, and anywhere. Every single Sunday, and seemingly always on Thursdays, especially if it's involving a Loki review, but most times on Thursdays, not all the time. Catch your luck and see how it is. And I also want to plug our recent episodes. So recently we had a whole bunch of reviews on some of the latest movies that are out right now. Peter and I discussed Quiet Place Part 2 and The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. We discussed Cruella on Fantasy Fair Podcast, which either drops on Friday or Monday. They have they don't have a set schedule. It just they drop them whenever they can get to them. I believe there should be a Luca review coming fairly soon, I believe. And as far as Luca is concerned, we've discussed that here on Red Spotlight with Peter Martinez, as well as getting his thoughts on In the Heights, which were quite fascinating. Now, before we get into any of that, David, did you get a chance to listen to the last podcast with Peter Martinez involving his thoughts of In the Heights and then also with Luca?
Yeah.
Okay. I should note that, of course, for those who are not aware, like David and Alexis. Now, I'm sure this has nothing to do with the fact that they live in the same household, but they are apparently the only people on this team that actually do bother and listen to as many of the shows as possible. So congratulations to them for keeping up with, except for the ones that they're involved with, obviously, because they experience it themselves. So I have to ask you, in particular, what's going on with the Disney Pixar movie Luca, and you, by the way, are probably the bigger Pixar fan than a Disney animation fan. At least that's what I have been most aware of. Mm-hmm. Of course, you have a very reputable, well, I'm not sure if that's the right term, but you have a reputation amongst our panel here for not completely hating Cars 2. Again, that's also a plug for a show we did back in 2020. I think it was mid or early 2020 where we had our Pixar lists. This was before Luca, obviously, and before Soul. And that has to be, and I think it remains, one of the most entertaining shows we did. And I don't even think you were there. I think they just read your list or something. I think you were asleep during the recording of that show.
No, so my sister read my list. And like in the beginning, Peter was like, "Oh, this is cool. Okay, I'm liking it." But then I mentioned Up in like in the 20s or something. I can't remember, but it was pretty low. And he was just like, "The fuck is this?" And then at some point, I woke up while you guys were recording, and I looked through the messages in our group chat, and Peter noticed that I've seen it. And in the recording, he goes, "Alexis, if your brother has time to look at our messages, he has time to get in this podcast and explain himself." And so I came out towards the end, and I gave my thoughts.
It was, wow. Can you believe that was over a year ago now?
Oh my gosh.
That shit's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was our most recent Pixar. Those Pixar lists are always the most entertaining and some of the most contentious material, only because we have varying opinions on those movies. Clearly, as what David just mentioned, I think the first time we did a Pixar list was early in 2016. So it took us I think a good 4 years just to do a follow-up to that one. So who knows when the next one will be. But I did want to get your thoughts, though, because you're the only person I haven't really spoke. Well, I don't really know exactly how much Kyle really cared or liked about Luca, because I have not heard his review, because it's not up yet. I wasn't in that podcast. So I hope Kyle listens to this, because I'm continuously plugging Fantasy Fair here. But we did discuss, generally speaking, the conversation surrounding the movie. So I know this is not related to what we're going to do here with Loki, but I just, you know what, we're doing a podcast and I want to get your thoughts on overall what you felt about the movie, and then your reaction to how people are talking about the movie. Because remember, our shows here are never just about what we feel about the movie or TV show. It's how people are talking about, all of the discourse. We had a podcast out last week literally called The Discourse, the episode, because of how much was surrounding it. So yeah, I just wanted to hear what you thought about all of that.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed Luca. It was super funny. I loved the friendship between the main two, and then also the girl later on and everything. And I mean, I think it was Peter that said it best. It's like, the best way to describe this is almost like a Studio Ghibli movie. Like, the animation's completely different than that of Studio Ghibli, but the story, though, it's kind of a nothing story. Like, you're just seeing these kids having a summer, a fun summer and everything, and you kind of see this connection grow and all that, which is something that I love about those Studio Ghibli movies. And the biggest one for me that kind of like, I don't know why, I just kind of like, I loved it the most was Luca's friend. What was his name?
Alberto?
Yeah, Alberto. His relationship with the dad, the one guy, Julia's dad. You know, you could tell right away, like, oh, he's looking up to him, obviously, as a father figure, like, already. And the dad, he's kind of like, he likes having a buddy around, and I think later on you can see that he's starting to see him as a son. And the moment that I loved the most was when, spoilers by the way, but I mean,
of course, yeah.
Sorry,
go watch it. No,
yeah,
if anything, this is a public service announcement. Go watch this movie, because Disney sure as hell is not promoting it.
Yeah. Oh my god. Well, anyway, but I love the moment though where they said Alberto, like, oh, Alberto left, he's gone.
The island.
Yeah, and the dad's just kind of like, I'm gonna go look for him, and they're telling him like, no point, he doesn't want to be, but he's kind of. To me, I noticed that it's him going, being like, I mean, I should still go. It was like he's trying to be. It seems like he's trying to just do this nice thing, but really though, like he's scared about his son leaving, being by himself, and so that was such a great moment for me, honestly. But yeah, and then it's just, I don't know, this is just a so nice movie, a really nice movie.
Honestly, it's one of those movies that can be really summed up in one word, and that is just delightful. It's delightful. There's not much to it, but what's there is pretty beautiful in and of itself, and because of its simplicity, it also makes it stand out, you know, in today's movies where a lot of them are just very, very, you know, complex and meticulously designed for, you know, a variety of different things. And that's perfectly fun and well, and we talk about them all the time, but yeah. So overall, it seems like Luca has won seemingly the entire panel over, pretty overwhelmingly. My impression was in my previous discussion with Kyle is he enjoyed it as well. So that is actually pretty rare, you know, as a matter of fact, that especially with Pixar these days, that all of us are just kind of won over by it. And it's not what I would have expected, but I'm actually pretty happy about that. And as you heard from our review of Peter, Peter and my review of Luca, it was honestly, I mean, we just adore the film. And as again, because it's not enough for me to just love something. Of course, I have to analyze how it's being discussed. You know, obviously, if you listen to this podcast for any number of, I don't know, weeks, months, years at this point, you know how much I love S.H.I.E.L.D. And we discuss S.H.I.E.L.D. invariantly, especially on the Marvel shows, because it keeps being brought up in a negative light, and that obviously bothers me. So that's why we do. We discuss these things, and to kind of like, it gives me my chance to kind of hit back on these things. And in this case, it really is kind of befuddling how many people were just kind of left completely like they were not, I mean, it's not just underwhelmed, but then also just completely so they walk away feeling so whatever about the movie. And you know what, again, like I want to say, everyone's opinion is their own, of course, but it's just
I mean, to me, it's just the problem is that they're always expecting something better and better and better. And I mean, I get that too. Like, you have tons of movies in the past that are like just absolutely amazing, and you should see movies as somewhat of a high standard and everything, as like in the past and all that. But you know, I always go into a movie as if I'm watching as if I'm watching a movie for the first time, or I'm watching this kind of movie for the first time, you know? Like, I can compare Luca's animation to a bunch of other ones. Like I said, like, you know, we compared the story to that of Studio Ghibli, but like Studio Ghibli's animation is just absolutely beautiful. I don't know if it's because it's 2D or they just somehow perfected 2D animation or something. But, you know, I'd rather not choose between the two as to what is actually better and all that. And so I don't know, it's just, and it's also just not fair to compare them to the last Pixar movies, because literally every Pixar movie is so fucking different. You know, I can't go Toy Story versus Incredibles. I'm like, I don't know.
Well, just look at the last two, Luca and Soul.
Yeah, it's just,
could you think of two films more different than that? Especially since, like, one seems to be far more geared toward, like, those two films in particular feel like they're like geared toward two different like audiences at that point. I think it's just I'm struggling to find what the right word. I don't want to say it's the business that we're in, but maybe it's just where we happen to find ourselves often, because anytime there's a new Pixar movie or especially if it's Pixar, Marvel, or Star Wars, every time there's a new one that comes out, I don't want to like blame the YouTubers or the movie critics who have YouTube channels, because they need material and they need content, you know, to fund themselves clearly, but they also really do stir up this conversation, because every time there's a new movie from those three like franchises, immediately, and even the publications like Entertainment Weekly or Hollywood Reporter, they re-update their lists of like, okay, where does it fall in the ranking of Pixar movies? Where does it fall in the ranking of, like, every single review I've seen as far as Luca, and then also Black Widow, every single one of them have mentioned, okay, where does this fall in between or in like the MCU? and the Pixar, and we're already there inherently like placing the value of this new film that we just saw against some of our favorite movies of all time. And in the case of Pixar, some of the best movies of all time. So now I haven't made up my mind whether or not that's completely like unfair, because we do have a habit of doing that ourselves here, because who doesn't obviously just want to naturally compare, especially if it's like a new addition in like this long franchise. It's kind of what happens. But in this case with Luca, I particularly feel like especially if you saw Chris Stuckman's review, and I don't want to like use him as a punching bag, especially because I respect the man. Like I've watched his reviews for so many years now. Every now and then he'll say some things that I vehemently disagree with, but I can respect where he's coming from. And I saw his review on Luca, and I have to tell you, and I don't know if you saw it, but I was left completely stupefied. Because the issues that he was having with the film all had to do with the plot. The first thing he said is he couldn't understand what it was that Luca was doing with the fish in the underwater world. And I couldn't for a second understand or take that as a serious criticism, because first of all, it seemed pretty obvious what he was doing.
Yeah.
I didn't seem at all confused or wanted to know more. I guess where he was coming from is he wanted more of the traditional Pixar world building, where they really explain these things and they go further in depth with it. And that really isn't what this film is. Like we mentioned it in the last podcast, it feels almost like the antithesis of a Pixar movie, where it's not concerned with those things and it's a slice of life movie.
When does Pixar do that? I mean, I know Incredibles and Onward, like they have some pretty heavy world building and all that, but like I'm thinking of Toy Story.
High concept world building. Like I'm thinking Inside Out, Soul, Coco, like these massive universes that live, I guess, in these kind of movies. That's what I'm thinking they're coming from.
Okay, I guess.
Onward, I guess, also have that, although not really. I mean, it was a world, but it was more of a joke than anything.
I mean, I don't know. I never really. I don't know. Just people talking about world building nowadays. It kind of gets me thinking.
I know.
As to like what is a perfect way to world build. I was gonna say something. I kind of want to rephrase what I said about how you should like look at movies every once in a while, and maybe not exactly look at it as if it's the first time you're watching a movie, but like for sure. Focus on the creator himself or herself. Like, what is this person trying to tell you? Don't like go, this is a sci-fi movie. Okay, is this person gonna do it exactly like how this other director from fucking 20 years ago did it, or are they gonna do like their own thing? Or I don't know. It's just kind of like, people want to tell their stories their own way, and whether they focus on world building or maybe they want to focus on character, pay attention to those kinds of things, and like look and see kind of like what's important to the creator and all that, like again, like with Onward, we could have probably gotten a whole bunch of more world building information about that place, but the sole focus was about two brothers kind of moving on from their dad, trying to get closer together and all that, and just, I mean, really it's just the importance of a brother by your side. And so if you want to complain like, oh, this thing doesn't make sense, this thing in the world doesn't make sense, this thing in the plot doesn't make sense, like, I mean, that's fine too, but if I'm gonna rate it, I'd rather rate it on what they were trying to say, not the perfection of a story, I guess, or of a film. Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. And, I was just kind of struck right now, mid-sentence, when you were explaining everything, because it's just come to a realization, even though it shouldn't be a realization, because this is kind of what we do here, where we kind of like vent out our frustrations at the world and everything. That's kind of what our shows have always been like. But it's like, it always seems, with one way or the other, we always find ourselves to be at odds with a popular train of thought when it comes to really a lot of the things that we like. And so that is, that's just, I guess, the bane of our existence, isn't it? Yeah, I agree with you. Interestingly enough, since we're on the topic of Onward in this sense with Pixar, I don't know, did you find it funny how, and I recorded these two podcasts last week with Peter and then also a separate one with Kyle and Alexis. Did you find it hilarious how both Alexis and Peter completely forgot Onward just happened?
Yeah, what you're talking about. Yeah. Oh my god. No, I mean, that sucks. I mean, it really just came out at a bad time. I mean, hopefully
the worst time possible.
Hopefully in a couple of years people will go, oh wait, Onward, like yeah, let's bring that back. I mean, if we can make Incredibles make a sequel and after I don't know how many years, I'm sure Onward will regain its popularity and maybe we can get a sequel somehow. I don't know what the story would be, but I mean, who knows?
Like that poor movie. I like that movie. Every time I've seen the movie, I like the movie very much. I think it's a solid film. And it's just hilarious to me how the world has just... Even Alexis and like Peter, like everyone, more or less enjoyed it. And we had an audio commentary on it even. And it's like, oh, wait, that movie came out. I forgot about it. Okay. That's sad. Especially, and it's funny because, Kyle liked it so much. And yeah, that happened there. So there is that. I do want to say before we move on to the Black Widow stuff, I had neglected to mention something and I wanted to say this at the top of the show, but I forgot. So here it is. Ladies and gentlemen, and all that fall within all those, we are finally going to do our top 10 show of 2020. This is a show where once a year, the three main panelists, Kyle, Peter, and myself, come together and we discuss our favorite 10 movies of the year. Now, of course, because 2020 was kind of a garbage year, I mean, in general, mostly because all of the things that were supposed to come out didn't come out, so it was a very trying experience trying to find really things to see. It was bleak, which is why, if you noticed, and we've been talking about, a lot of our coverage really switched to television last year because of what happened. So we are finally doing it. If everything goes according to plan, it should be the next show. Now, I don't know if I even said it, but this episode is 335. Hey, welcome. 20 minutes in, and here's the number. But the next episode should very well be our big show of the year. So, we'll take this as a point of honor here. This will officially be the latest we've gone into a year talking about the favorite movies of the previous year. I think maybe once or twice we were able to do it late December, early January. But ever since Peter has insisted on watching more and more movies, the list has gone further and further. I think one time the record we set, maybe 2018 or 2019 maybe, was Memorial Day. Well, we have since topped that record, and now we've reached a new holiday, the 4th of July, literally over halfway to the year. And now we'll be talking about the best movies of last year, which reminds me, David, if you happen to, I don't think you'll be available. We're actually recording it tomorrow. But if you happen to have a list of sorts, let me know, and then I can also include it on the show if you are so inclined. Although some of us had to literally be dragged and pulled to show up to get the show off the ground because, well, I just said. Literally. So there is that. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the Black Widow stuff. So a bunch of reactions have come out. David, I have shared so many reactions to Black Widow. The film is coming out pretty soon. I would say actually next week. By this time next week, we should be seeing it. What have you made of the reactions? Now, before, it should obviously be stated, and I guess, well, I should probably remind maybe listeners who are new, maybe new to this, but we've been talking about this for many years now. Social media reactions, especially, are very much, they need to be taken with a grain of salt, because so many films in the last 5 or 6 years, 7 almost even now, that we've been doing this, particularly comic book movies, they come out and they have a very high positive response. And then invariantly a lot of the movies end up being not that good. And so the thing you have to understand about early social media reactions is, of course, the studios do gather familiar voices with outlets and platforms who have a historic nature of being generally favorable to what they have to offer. Now, with that being said, I have kind of been caught off guard by the reactions, because based on how little Marvel was talking about this before the pandemic happened, right? And how little interest it seemed to be generating, it almost felt like this movie was going to be, what's going to happen here? You know? And I kind of expected a pile-on to happen. And so far, based on the, I think, 2 or 3 rounds of reactions that we've seen, I would say it kind of ranges. There is, I think, a solid medium of people who are saying it's good, it's solid, it's a Marvel movie, it's an MCU film. Some who enjoy it, some who really don't enjoy it. There have been some negative reactions, some indifferent reactions. And then there have been some reactions from certain people who don't necessarily have a fond association with Marvel films that actually have enjoyed this movie more than others. And so it's a range of like really positive to, some positive reactions, and then there are some others that are far more mixed. Maybe they're indifferent, and then some that actually hated it. So with all of this being said, what do you think, David? What is the impression left on you after reading all of these reactions, and especially on how some just radically differ?
I mean, it's about what I always expect. It's always going to be that way, where some people just absolutely love these Marvel movies and some people just find it meh. I mean, I found it surprising recently that I was listening to a podcast and these 2 people found Ant-Man and the Wasp to be like one of the best of the Marvel movies.
You need to stop. You need to stop right now. What?
I mean, not like top 5 or anything, but like they still put it pretty high up, and I'm kind of like, ooh.
How high?
I don't know exactly, but
ooh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of I wholeheartedly disagreed with that. Oof.
Of course, it's nobody likes that movie. Nobody likes that movie in our circle. Mm-hmm. I should clarify. I never heard Alexis. Did she ever see that movie?
She saw it. And I mean, I don't know how she feels about it now. Because usually when we see a movie, like,
we talk about it.
Yeah, but I mean, like when we come out of the theater, we always like end up liking something. But like later on, we're kind of like, oh wait, no, it was kind of shit. So I don't know how she feels about it now. But yeah, but in terms of Black Widow, though, I mean, I'm just as long as people say that, like, hey, you know what, it's got some fun action. I enjoyed Scarlett Johansson's performance, and I mean, the whole cast's performance and all that. Like, to me, that kind of, as long as I hear that, I get excited for the movie. I've always been excited for the movie, so.
Of course, because, you know, I love Scarlett Johansson and I love Black Widow. I think you and I seem to be perhaps the biggest fan of how the character was used in the movies. Everybody else seems to have very mixed opinions on how she was used. But to be fair to them, a lot of people have very different opinions on how Black Widow was utilized. And yeah, I'm just like, I'm very encouraged by the positive responses I've seen from certain people who honestly have a really particular history, like maybe not particular, but maybe like a little bit of a mixed history with Marvel. One of the ones that I'm actually quite curious of is William Bibbiani, Bibbs as they call him. He used to be on the not SEN, but on the, I think the Schmodown at some point when Collider was associated with it. And of course, he also used to be, I think, a guest critic on What the Flick, which was a movie review / TV review series that used to be part of the TYT network. And I believe he also has a podcast called Critically Acclaimed right now. And he caught my eye when he said Black Widow is Marvel's answer to the Bond series. It's a damn good answer. Exciting action. Everybody's saying that. Spectacle built around unusual character dynamics and a great ensemble cast. A lot of people are talking about Florence Pugh, the cast, and what I'm actually really kind of excited of, especially, is not so much the action. I kind of expect the action to be decent when it comes to Marvel. And on the flip side, maybe on a bad negative note, not much more than that for the most part, but hopefully it's a little bit better than that in the film. But what's really kind of making me feel hopeful is how many people are saying how much of an intimate film it feels like, especially how it focuses on the family story with Natasha and her sister and her family. And that's kind of what I hoped for, when we were talking about the recent trailers from Black Widow. It's like, yeah, I kind of am in the mood for a smaller scale film that is telling a far more intimate character story than a lot of the other Marvel movies that really just, that gets lost in so much else that's going on here. So, and I've even seen, some people, I think like Alicia Grasso from Screen Rant, or maybe even some others that, usually like, and I've criticized this type of like thinking where like, oh, well, yeah, Marvel could do so much character stuff, but the action always gets in the way because we can never have anything without somebody like hitting each other in the face. But she's actually been like saying that between the stuff going on Marvel TV and Black Widow, like she's actually been very encouraged by Marvel and, focusing on character. That's the stuff that makes me feel hopeful. Of course, I think this is a general rule for everybody. Walking into a movie, keep those expectations low. Because, just keep them low. Hope to have a good time, but keep them low. That way, in case the film isn't all that great, you can still say you had an enjoyable time. And even though we've talked about so much Marvel content, especially this year, we're talking about Loki right now, Falcon and Winter Soldier, WandaVision. We talked about S.H.I.E.L.D. Nobody else did. All right. It was the only thing Marvel related we had in 2020. But can you believe that Black Widow coming out 4th of July holiday weekend, basically? It is this weekend, but it falls on a Sunday this year, so it's a bit weird. But generally, it is 4th of July week. Can you believe it's going to be actually 2 whole years since the last MCU movie went in theaters?
Wow.
Like, I remember walking out of Avengers Endgame and thinking, man, wouldn't it be nice if Marvel, and I think Peter and Kyle also agreed as well, to an extent, that wouldn't it be nice if Marvel took a break and not like jump immediately into the movies?
Yeah.
I wonder if that jinxed humanity. Because ultimately they did end up having to take a break because of COVID. Like everything else, it seemed like. And Black Widow, I think, honestly, 2 years to the week, I think. Because like Far From Home, also the last MCU film, debuted in theaters that same week, 4th of July. So that is insane. That's insane that it's been 2 whole years since that happened. But I'm excited. I definitely am. Can't wait to see it. Anyway, before we move on to Loki, your thoughts on the new trailer for Shang-Chi?
Oh, I like it. I mean, I'm always excited for these Marvel movies. I'm really I don't know how to explain the word. Whatever.
Tired?
Yeah, I never get tired of these. They're always fun. But Shang-Chi, I am really excited about it. I tried watching what is it, Kim's Convenience, which is a show that Simu
Liu, that's right. Yeah.
Is on. I've only seen like 2 episodes, so I can't really say for sure if I like him in the show. But the action looks cool. The CGI looks fine. I'm still hoping maybe it'll get a bit better as it goes on.
Yeah, I have the same impression too about the CGI.
And then it's just, really though, I know so little about this character that I can't really like express my thoughts on this movie fully. But the thing that for sure surprised me, it was the fucking Abomination coming out at the end.
Nobody saw that coming.
Oh my god, no, hell no. And I was I was like, okay, there's no way they kept this hidden. Like, someone must have found out about her somehow. And it's just absolutely no one knew about it. Everyone on the internet was just kind of like, posting those memes of reactions of the trailer. And I was going like, is that Abomination? Was that Abomination? What the fuck? How is that Abomination? And so that was fun.
No, it was hysterical. And I didn't even notice Wong was there with the Abomination the first couple of times until Peter pointed it out.
I knew.
So there is that.
I knew it was a sorcerer, but I didn't know it was Wong.
Yeah, that's weird. But the good kind of weird. So I can't wait to see how that turns out. I do want to mention something only because I'm sorry. Like, this is funny to me. As we mentioned before, on Twitter, there are so many fandoms that are out there. And of course, there are fandoms that seemingly hate each other. Why? Because. Anyway, we mentioned before that there had been people who go out of their way and try to devalue the existence of the show Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., right? So apparently the S.H.I.E.L.D. stands, they call them, or the S.H.I.E.L.D. fandom, they call them the MCU fans, for lack of a better term. Although I guess that's overly generic or simplistic. But they're kind of always butting each other's heads, literally on a week-to-week basis. But one of the funniest things I did see, though, in regards to what that moment with the Abomination, which we should note, looked very different than the last time we saw him, which was in the 2008 movie, The Incredible Hulk, which, honestly, as big MCU fans as you and I are, I sometimes forget that even exists. Like, I so rarely think about that movie. Whenever I look at, like, let's say I'm updating an MCU list and I see it there, I'm like, oh, wait, that's right, you exist. Oh my God. If you listen to our commentary that we did a couple years ago when Endgame came out of that movie, oh my God, was it so hard to say anything. I was so unbelievably bored. And then Kyle, the only thing he would say throughout the entirety of that runtime was, man, the color grading is really green. Oh my God, that was insufferable. That was insufferable. Some of these movies are not meant to do audio commentaries on. I'm sorry, they just weren't. But to the tweet that I saw from MCB Direct, it's one of these side-by-side comparisons. So he's, on one hand, you have the image of the Abomination from this trailer, and then on the other hand, you have a screen grab from WandaVision, where you have Wanda reading the Dark Hold. I almost said dark saber. Oh my god. The dark hold. So keep those images in mind when I read this. MCU fans see Abomination redesign, : oh, that's so great. They are finally mentioning the Incredible Hulk again. And then the next one, MCU fans see Darkhold redesign. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. confirm not canon because Darkhold looks different. I mean, if you want to apply the same piece of logic, I know there are extenuating circumstances and there's a far more inner complex debate regarding the canonicity. Is that how you say it? Canonicity
I don't know if
of this show. David and I have discussed it at length. We're not getting into it this week. If you want to listen to those conversations, we've had them. Go into the past. Especially we had 2 episodes dedicated to WandaVision after the season aired. So go back and listen to those, and you'll have that discussion there. I just thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
Because it is a redesign. And it's like, oh, this redesign, oh, they made it look better. And then this redesign's like, oh, this means fuck you. Basically. So there is that. I love one more thing here. Ming-Na Wen had some hilarious comments about Loki. She was given an interview. I think she gave an interview with comicbook.com and then also Screen Rant. And she was talking about how she loves Loki. It is so good. I love how that first episode was made. And Owen Wilson, who knew? Who knew he could be a sexy silver fox? Yeah, a lot of people are tuning into that. And we're going to have a lot of Owen Wilson talk. A lot of Owen Wilson thoughts for today's episode. So I think we're done with this. I think we can go ahead and get into the actual episode 40 minutes in. But here we are. Thank you for tuning in this long. But you know, because it is the episode we're talking about, I took a chance and people are going to want to hear what we think about the episode. This was fucking great.
Yeah. This
was so good on a level that really surprised me. And again, to be clear, we're talking about initial impressions here. We'll give a spoiler warning in a minute. This was so good in a way we're so rarely used to getting. I've even seen some people say, man, this episode in and of itself is better than half of the MCU movies. And I wouldn't disagree with that. I think it was so good. I saw it twice. Not just, now I see most episodes twice. No, I saw the episode. I finished it. And I pressed play to watch it again. Late last night. Like, I never do that. I never feel compelled to do that. And I did it this time because it was so good. It was honestly, I think, now a lot of people are saying it was easily the best episode of television Marvel Studios has produced. I would say put an asterisk on that. I would still hold episode 8, I think, right? Episode 8 of WandaVision. I would still think that's the best one they've done so far. And I would put this one right under it. Although I'm not too sure about that. I know a lot of people are getting into like ranking episodes now for, I think, quality of episodes for the MCU produced TV shows. We don't necessarily do that, but as far as like the output so far, you and I have, and a lot of us have been very taken with how good they've been. There have been some issues here and there with all of these series. That is to say, wow, did this episode shut people up about last week? And then some stuff that happened last week obviously played into the character motivations that happened in this episode. You know, just to refresh people.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought? I know, right?
It's almost like they're taking their time to build up to something.
I know. Yeah. It is honestly, as Peter shared the GIF earlier on the chat today, of Loki from the Dark World saying, "I'm impressed. I am impressed." How they were able to do this, like, honestly, the feelings that I get watching, especially this episode, really reminds me, and I know that I have a tendency to mention this all of the time, and I'm here to say I don't care, so shut up. But I'm just going to say, like, the things that this episode made me feel without, like, again, with understanding, of course, that they're different shows, but it's almost the same kind of feeling I had with when I watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., because a lot of their shows have to do with, some really big episodes where, man, they really do take you into several different corners and you don't see where it's going. And then it ends and it's beautiful and it's epic. And it's like, what did I just watch? And I can't wait to see it next week. That's the feeling that show left me with. And what WandaVision made me feel like. And then here I am with Loki. So just as a small addendum to this, it is crazy to me how many people love Loki, and then how many people love WandaVision, and then also Falcon and Winter Soldier, but they can't bring themselves to watch S.H.I.E.L.D., which is a very good show in its own right. Not the same, obviously, but it gives you that same kind of feeling, especially if you're so invested in this universe. So I'm going to put that to the side for a minute there. But overall, I didn't know what this episode was going to do, and then all of the different twists and turns, but in particular, of course, with, small spoiler, the body count. Yeah, I was left continuously surprised. I love being surprised in a good way. There was one surprise where I was like, you better not, no. And then it ends and you're so happy, and they have this great song playing over the credits. And then of course they have this mid-credit scene, and then you're like, what? Like, what was that? So yeah, it is also just a brilliant function to bring forward the narrative in a way that once again upends where we think it's going. A lot of things happen here that if you were to read on paper, you would think, wait a minute, am I reading the script for the season finale? Wait, where did I miss a couple of episodes here and there because of the events that happened in the episode? It's this kind of episode. Mm-hmm. It is so good. And I think clearly these feelings are being shared amongst all of us. Kyle seemed to really enjoy it based on like him saying, man, it was really good. And so did Peter. So it's like, and I guess your sister is seemingly watching it right now as we speak, because I just got a text from her a couple minutes ago at the start of the show that she's watching it in real time. So I'm sure I'll get her reaction in real time once she's finished with that. I loved it. I love this show. Oh my goodness. The acting, the writing, the cinematography, the score. It is so, so good. Oh my goodness. David.
No, I mean, I agree with everything you said. This one, I've given my thoughts before in like all in the past episodes, but like I never want to fully give my thoughts on a show until the very end. But like this one though, what I like is that this is building up from the past 3 episodes, and it's like reaching towards something. We still got 2 more episodes and everything, so we still got some ways to go. But I like though that, everything that set up the friendship between Loki and Mobius, it's sort of being tested in this moment. And Loki and Sylvie, not tested, but like, there's still something building up in this episode and all that. And yeah, it's just, I love that this is a culmination of also bringing up intensity this whole episode. Like you're just moving from one scene to the next. and like so many things are happening. It's a surprise in every single scene. You're kind of like, okay, oh, this is happening, cool. And then the next scene, oh my gosh, this is happening. Okay, great. Let's keep going and all that. I mean, yeah, this is a great episode. Like you said, acting is great. I love the dialogue between, especially for Loki and Mobius. Like I said, like they're moving the dialogue, and this one had something that I've been like saying in the past episodes. It's like in episode 2, I kind of got not bored, but like kind of I was losing. They were losing my attention in the episode because I just didn't like the brown or gray color within in the screen and everything. And then something that I noticed in this episode as to there was another reason why, and it was because they were just kind of talking slow. In episode 2, like the only part that was kind of like grabbing my attention was when Loki was explaining of why Sylvie is hiding in apocalypses and everything. But also when there were like those moments where they kind of like, oh my gosh, it's like they hit they figured out something within the investigation that will help them and all that. And like, you know, that's when it gets moving. But this one though, yeah, the dialogue was like was moving and moving, but also they got the cinematography kind of right. I mean, it wasn't cinematography; it was more the editing. Like it was going back and forth between the two, like and everything. And like you said, like you mentioned, the acting, Mobius, you know, he's intense in this episode, obviously because Loki sort of betrayed him and everything, and he's in a shitload of trouble because of what happened and all that. So he's trying to like just get this thing done as fast as possible and all that. So yeah, so in this episode, I think they got everything right. The color, the setting of the place didn't bother me so much just because they got the camera moving, they got the editing moving. I'm saying moving a lot, but
yeah, you know. And I really have enjoyed the production design of, you know, especially this entire like TVA for the most part. But I loved it here, and I don't know if you got this sense as well, but I think the episode also featured a pretty good, I'd say, feeling of anxiety, and this paranoia with like the, let's say, revelations that are about to be unearthed by some of the characters. And especially, yeah, I get what you're saying about how characters are moving here. It was definitely a signature episode of the series. Like I don't know how you can get better than this. Like this may have been the best episode of the series. Because it's just so good. As far as execution is concerned, yeah, it's great. I don't know what else to say that can't really be said without getting into the specifics. So without further ado, let's go ahead, David. This is the official spoiler discussion. Let's talk about the episode as it happened in sequence. Where do we begin?
We start off in Asgard. You see Sylvie, she's a little kid just playing with her toys. And the TVA just show up and take her away, and we see her going through the same process as Loki and all that. And as she was about to, like, I guess, be judged, she manages to escape. She escaped from, what's her name?
Wait, who?
Sylvia, the TVA agent.
Yes. Oh, her name is Ravonna Renslayer.
Renslayer. Renslayer is the one that took her out of the timeline and everything and was like processing her. She got away from her, took her temp pad and booked it. And we're just to assume that she's just been hiding ever since for who knows how long. But yeah, and I mean it was cool, I guess. Kind of get the idea. Still wish, I mean, hopefully we'll get more since we have 2 more episodes. Maybe we can just get a bit more information as to how she survived all on her own and everything. But we see that, and it then cuts to Renslayer. She's in an elevator. She's super nervous. and the elevator doors open, and you just see this blue fog, like staring into an abyss. Basically, she walks in, and then this red light comes on, and you see the silhouettes of the timekeepers. And that part, I was kind of like, oh shit, we're doing this. Okay. I thought, oh man, I actually thought that was really cool. I just liked the way they looked in the silhouette and everything, just the setting too. It looked kind of creepy, but also like kind of pretty cool, like awesome at the same time. And then, yeah, I mean, do you have any thoughts on those two things?
Yeah, so I laughed, and no one points it out. And in all fairness, it was done very well. Like, I wouldn't call it cheap. It was a very good effect. The backside of Asgard. So again, like, it's not the usual track shot of like from the front of it where we see, you know, the mass city and the planet where like all of it's like, oh, we get a shot from the back of Asgard where it's a lot more doable to animate the VFX. That being said, I think it worked because we never really have seen a camera angle from the backside of Asgard. So, hey, there is that. So I did find that humorous. We start off with Sylvie being kidnapped, and that sequence, man, where she is just basically just kidnapped. Literally, the little girl was kidnapped, and then we see her go through all the same things that Loki went through when he was first caught by the TVA. Only this time it's like there's hardly any dialogue being said, and it's all just kind of like, you know, capturing feelings and facial expressions. And then it just came off so, like, the TVA for the first, I think, 2 episodes had this potential, or they were kind of portrayed as maybe the good guys with a question mark. Wow, did they look really bad here? Like, holy shit. Honestly, they came off as just an evil institution. Mm-hmm. Just how completely heartless they were. And like, it's different when you do it to a kid. Especially since like they're not even explained on any level whatsoever. What they did was wrong. Their crime was existing. Mm-hmm. And yet they talk to them as if they were like arresting people who know full well what they're being arrested for, much less have a concept of it. And they just sweep them up and they kill them. And it was kind of a pretty horrifying look at what they do. And it all just kind of like immediately switched me on Sylvie's side, like, fuck these people. And it also, and I asked this question. No one else talked about this last week, but we talked about it in our review last week about what did Sylvie mean when she said about, I've been running from them my whole life. Mm-hmm. Because that stood out because I guess initially some of us thought that all of the Loki variants were maybe caught because of a similar circumstance that our original Loki was. And that wasn't the case. Now, like this Loki has literally led a hellish life. And she's been having to run away from them her entire existence. And that is just, wow, that's sad. And then we get back to Lamentus, and Loki and Sylvie basically they kick back and watch the world end. And it kind of like put it all into, I guess, words when Sylvie said, you know, my whole life I've been running away from them, and now this is how it ends. Mm-hmm. Wow. Honestly, pretty bad there. And then you see a connection of some sort happen. I think it's either, I don't know if it was Sylvie or Loki at first, but I think they reach in to hold hands as they think they're about to fucking die, because Yeah, like that. I know you mentioned it again last week too, that when I guess the moon first starts to break apart, you see in the distance some big ass piece go somewhere else that doesn't affect them. So I guess that was rectified this week when there is something it literally crashes onto the planet, and that's going to take them out. But I guess that connection of sorts caused a Nexus event.
Yeah.
Where the TVA was able to find them. And find them they did. Great scenes, great work from all the actors involved. Even at this point, Hiddleston is great. So is Sophia DiMartino. I really do enjoy her as Sylvie. And I'm so glad that we're calling her that and not Lady Loki. And as far as the stuff that happened with the TVA, I guess there you see the grudge, quote unquote, that Ravonna Renslayer has toward Sylvie, and then vice versa. Yeah, overall, a strong opening, a very strong opening to the episode.
No, I mean, especially with when we cut to Sylvie and Loki back on the planet. And I just like everything that he said. She mentions, like, do you think what makes Loki a Loki is that we just end up losing in the end? And he's just like, nah.
The dialogue is so good, though. Michael Waldron needs to be commended. Man, I don't know what it is, but this show is making me really look forward to, in a way that I really wasn't, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Again, Michael Waldron writing that with Sam Raimi. And I think he got the gig because Kevin Feige was so impressed with what he did with this show. So, I don't know. But he's a great writer of dialogue. And man, what you said, that really hit hard. Like, are we just destined to lose? Man, what a shitty existence. That is, like, honestly, just really fucked up.
And then I like what Loki says, and it's just like, you ran away from the TVA when you were a kid. Like, you nearly destroyed them. And what do you say? Like, you ran like laps around them. I don't know exactly, but basically, like, you've survived this entire time all on your own. Like, you're amazing. That's what he says in the end. And yeah, she holds his hand, and there's a bit of a moment between them, and that causes a Nexus event. And at first I was kind of confused. I'm like, how is this causing a Nexus event? Well, they explain it later on. We'll get to it when we get to it, but that's how they get saved in the end. As we were seeing that them on that planet, we did go back on to the TVA, and Mobius and Renslayer, they talked after Renslayer met the Timekeepers. She was just like, oh, they're pissed off or something like that, basically. And Mobius, he's just trying to like hurry up to find Loki and Sylvie. He was hoping to talk to Agent C20. And turns out C20 is dead. From what we hear from Renslayer is that the enchantment Sylvie put on her just caused her mind to collapse, basically. And so we cut to when I guess like the main office of the TVA. They're looking.
Yeah, she technically wasn't lying there.
She wasn't lying, yeah. But yeah, they're hoping to find a Nexus event. Hopefully, that can lead them to Loki and Sylvie. And then there was this one moment though where what was it? Agent B-15, I think that's her. And she's asking Mobius like, oh, haha, C20. He doesn't tell her. He's supposed to keep it a secret that she's dead and everything. But B-15, she sounded kind of worried about Loki and Sylvie. Obviously, she wants to find them because that's her job and everything. But like, for me, it sounded like she was worried about them mostly. And that was like the first thing I noticed from her. And that was the first thing I noticed that was off about the episode as to what was going to happen later on. And so that was a neat little scene from her. I thought that was cool. But yeah, they saved them. and they get separated and all that, and then you get this cool back and forth between Mobius and Loki, basically just being childish. And it's just like, oh, you betrayed me. It's like, oh no, you betrayed me. It's like, oh, shut up. No, you shut up. And all that. And then
I love the little line of him being insulted that he didn't have as many security guards as Sylvie did.
Yeah, that's funny. So they're back in that office where Mobius showed Loki his future.
Mm-hmm.
And he maybe Mobius is just trying to, like, I guess, rile him up a bit, just kind of like break his feelings. Calling him, I was like, no, you're not the god of mischief. You're just mainly an asshole and a bad friend. And all that. And he opens up a portal, and you see that it's red and not like, I don't know, what would you say? Gray color, or not gray, gold.
Yellow. Gold or yellow, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And they throw him in. Oh, before he throws him in, Loki says, like, the TV have been lying to you this whole time. And this Mobius is like, okay, yeah, right, whatever. And he throws him in, and it turns out he throws him into a time loop where he has to relive the moment where Lady Sif punches him in the face and kicks him in the gut and everything because Loki.
Oh, I think she kicks him a little bit lower than the gut.
I want to say gut just because, like, I don't know. I've been hit down there, and you cannot get up that fast if you're right there.
Well, yeah.
So, like, that's why I was saying, like, is it there or is it the gut? I don't know. Well, whatever. Either way, he gets kicked by Lady Sif because Loki cut a piece of her hair off and everything. But Lady Sif is in there. Oh my gosh, I couldn't believe it.
Right?
Oh,
it was like, wait, oh wow. I was so happy to see her. To see Jamie Alexander returns as Lady Sif. That in and of itself, like, it may be a separate side discussion, but it's obviously worth having it here. Wow. Like, we knew, like, she was coming back for Thor Love and Thunder because they announced it previously. But man, like, that character has had such a roller coaster in terms of, like, where her status is. Like, this is a character that was in the first 2 Thor films. Then she made 2 guest spots on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in season 1, I believe. And then also season 2. And then that was it. Nobody knew what the fuck happened to her. She didn't come back for the 3rd film, Thor Ragnarok, especially since, like, the other members of the Warriors 3 and then Asgard was destroyed. And so you'd think that'd be a pretty important thing for her to be a part of, and that, nope, I guess that wasn't it. And so a lot of us were worried, like, man, are we really never going to see her again? And we were so excited when they announced it that she would be part of Thor 4. And then to see her pop up in this is such a splendid surprise. And it also is like, she may be the only one. I think she's the only character to, like, go through. So she started off in the MCU movies. Then she appeared in the Marvel Entertainment show. She did two appearances on S.H.I.E.L.D. And then she went back to MCU television. Like, I don't think anyone else has had that distinction. I know that there have been some characters that have gone from the TV shows to the movies, like Jarvis and Avengers Endgame. And then there have been the ones that have gone from the movies to the TV, but haven't come back. And, like, I guess in this case would be Coulson. Although, if you want to count Captain Marvel, I mean, there was that. So it is interesting that they're finally acknowledging that she exists again. And I'm happy for, obviously Jamie Alexander. I'm happy for Sif. And I'm hoping this means that she can be a character at some point, hopefully. Whether it be either in Thor Love and Thunder or maybe even a potential 2nd season of Loki. Who knows? I was very happy to see her pop up. It was great.
Just give her her own show. Fuck it.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
She can carry her own show. She very much can.
I mean, she's done one show, the actress.
Blind Spot. Yeah.
Was it Blind Spot? Wow.
Is it Blind Spot? I don't know what it was called.
Yeah, I can't remember either. But yeah, she can do it. But yeah. So what do you think of the scenes before that, though?
Oh, look. I'm not sure how much there is to say on that, but it's basically how Mobius should be reacting. Obviously, he should be pissed. And there's really no reason for him to actually think that Loki is telling the truth at all. But yeah, no, I it just shows Mobius that's just kind of out of patience in this particular part of it. But he's still, I guess, I don't know, like he's aggressive toward Loki, but he also isn't like completely shutting himself off. Like you could still see that he clearly enjoys his company, even in this circumstance. So, nah, he's great. He's great. And then Loki is just like, man, that line he had in Thor Ragnarok really does and will forever, I think, define what Loki is. When Hulk asks Loki, "What are you up to these days?" and he says, as he's tied up, the Valkyrie tied him up, "It varies from moment to moment." Literally, like Loki's life is fucking like chaotic as shit. Like every single moment, like you go literally from almost being crushed to death by a moon in an impending apocalypse to being captured by the TVA, being separated from Sylvie, and then being pushed into a different time memory loop where he is being repeatedly kicked in certain areas by Lady Sif. Like, holy crap. Like, this character has no moment of peace whatsoever. I guess maybe last episode counts of it, but he is such... I don't know. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah, it was cool. It was cool. And then that... What happens next? I know... Oh, I think Mobius talks to Renslayer after that. I think they're just trying to get everything together for them to be... What was the word they used?
I don't know what the word they used, but I think he walks in because he wants to interrogate Sylvie.
No, I mean, no, they were just getting the paperwork together to like execute them, I guess, or whatever.
Well, before that, we're not there yet. Like, so after he leaves Loki with Sif, he goes to Renslayer and he asks her for a chance to talk to Sylvie, and then she says no.
Oh yeah,
we're not done yet.
Yeah, I remember now. Like, yeah, because he thinks like, you know, Loki doesn't seem like the mastermind and all this. It's still clearly Sylvie, so he wants to talk to her and all that. But she's just like, no. It's just I want it to be done with them too and everything, blah blah. But he just kind of goes, okay, fine, whatever. And then he goes to where Sylvie is being held. She sees B-15, and you know, he's hoping to like just go in, but there's too many guards and everything, obviously.
Right.
But then B-15 asks him, it's like, if there's anything that Loki said in there, and he's just like, that I shouldn't trust the TVA. Why? And she goes, I'm just doing my job, whatever. And again, just a little thing they set up. But yeah, and then so we go back to the office where Loki's being held, and there's this moment though in the time loop where he's on his knees and he's telling Lady Sif, it's like I shouldn't have done that. Yes, be alone forever, blah blah blah. Basically, kind of like he's genuinely apologizing for what he did, and just kind of, I guess in a way, he just can't take any more of what Lady Sif is doing in a way.
Yeah.
But then in that moment, Mobius takes him out, and it just he starts to interrogate him, asking him like, "Okay, fine. How long have you been working with the variant?" And he's just like, "I haven't been working with her." Blah blah blah. Just trying to get whatever kind of information you can get from Loki and all that. And at one point, Loki just straight up lies to him, saying like, yeah, whatever, fine. The variant came up to me a couple of years ago, asking for my help. I said, yeah, fuck it, I'll help. He asked him what he has to gain. He's just like, nothing. I was gonna betray her in the end, blah blah blah, and do my thing. And basically, in the end, Mobius, he knows he's bullshitting. He knows that he's lying, but he realizes that Loki does care about Sylvie, and in that moment, he just fucking like goes at him with that. It's just like, you are so full of shit. Like, what the hell?
Could there be? He didn't say it this way, but like, man, could there be a bigger narcissist ever?
Yes, it's just like, I can't believe it. Like, you actually care about her. Like, you full on narcissist. For yourself. Like, of course you would only fall for yourself. And everything.
Yeah.
And Loki's trying to like deny. But it's like, no, wonder you caused that Nexus event. Like, literally two of the same beings from alternate universes or alternate timelines, like, falling in love. That could break reality in a way and everything. And so basically, I mean, you can say that the Nexus event was caused out of love or something, whatever, but like, really it's just reality. It literally is reality breaking of two of the same people falling for each other and everything. And then Loki just couldn't like take any more of this interrogating, so he just straight up tells Mobius, "Hey, you're all variants. The Timekeepers never created you. You had a life before this," and all that. And again, Mobius thinks he's bullshitting and puts him back into the time loop. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's backtrack a bit. When Mobius was talking to Renslayer, she's not good at hiding her stress. And she's also not good at hiding anything, because she's been the entire episode before certain things happen. She just comes off as really suspicious.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, everything she does, especially since like she doesn't want to let Mobius talk to Sylvie. And that is kind of a red flag there. And so I think at that moment, you do see that Mobius is getting a little bit suspicious because of how Renslayer is acting. Not so much, but just like, man, I really wanted to go in and talk to Sylvie, and like she's not going to let you. And then all the things you said about that scene with Loki and Mobius, that scene. I mean, those two are so great. Mm-hmm. They're just great together in every single situation. And I don't know, like, you never really know exactly when Mobius, like, I guess, what's the official start of him questioning things? Because he plays it so good. Like, he is such a good liar. Not that he lies all the time, but he can be. But yeah. Mm-hmm. So what happens next?
What was I saying? Oh yeah. So that happens, and then I want to say it cuts to B-15.
I think it's Hunter B-15. Well, actually, I don't know. Do we cut to or do we have Mobius go back and see Renslayer? Do you remember which happens first?
I don't remember, but I don't think it matters because either way, both lead to somewhere else. Either way, well, we'll just start with B-15.
Sure.
So she's like kind of freaking out in a way. You don't know what's happening to her in the moment. But she gets ready to go talk to Sylvie. She goes in there on her own, and she just opens up a portal and tells her, like, come on. And we're back at the Roxxon store in the apocalyptic place. And she asks her, it's like, what the heck did you show me? Like, when you went to my mind, like, what was that? And it's like, did you put that in there? And Sylvie explains, like, no, I don't create memories. I just go through them. That's what's already there. And so B15, she gets curious, and she tells her, show me the rest, basically. And Sylvie shows her, and little complaint here, I wish we would have gotten images as to what she was seeing. I mean, I think she did a great job too, just kind of like expressing like what she is seeing is making her happy, it's making her emotional and everything. And I did like the moment where she says, like, I was so happy there, like, what the hell. And so it was still a cool moment. I just wish, they could have done the thing of like flashes. You hear, I don't know if she had a family or something, but kids playing, kids laughing and all that. I don't know. Just minor complaint on that.
Yeah, I that's interesting. I had the complete opposite feeling of it. When I was watching it happen. I was like, wow, like, okay, they very could have easily shown images, but the camera is very much lingering on the actor having this emotion, and I appreciated that. So yeah, I wouldn't have minded the images. I don't think I needed them, because I think the point kind of was made across what was going on in her mind. We didn't need to see where she came from exactly. We just needed to know that she's realizing, oh no, I'm a variant.
No, yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, she got the point across perfectly in that moment of like what she was going through, and that her life was a lie, basically, in the TVA. I mean, maybe at the very least, like, put some noises on in that scene. Of what I said, like her maybe talking to someone. She had like a husband or a wife. She had kids. Hear them laughing and all that. I don't know. Again, minor complaint. Whatever. And then we cut to Mobius and Renslayer talking again. This is where they're finally signing the paperwork to get this thing over with and everything.
I love how they're literally signing paperwork. Like, they have these fucking paper files. I know that's the thing with the TVA, and that's in the look of their aesthetic, but it's like, wow, that's really analog. Like, you don't have, like, you couldn't just do this with a data pad or your temp pad and like send it off there. It doesn't matter. I appreciate it. But yeah, I found that to be humorous.
But again, he kind of Mobius presses Renslayer about C20, like what exactly happened. It's just like, that, but she brushes it off, like all the other stuff he tries to get from her. And then so she has like Sylvie's sword, and he's all like, oh, so we're gonna display this, and she's like, oh yeah. She's looking around, and in that moment, Mobius takes her temp pad and switches it with his. And later on, we see him on his own somewhere in the library, and he's looking through the footage, or he's looking for C20's file, and it does say that she's deceased, so she was dead. But he wanted to see if he can get more info, and we see a video of her confessing that she had a life before this. She saw a memory. That's what she meant when she said it's real. That what was real was her memory, or that moment in the restaurant where Sylvie was taking over. And yeah, basically proving that, like, okay, there's more to the TVA than I thought, and all that. And so that gives him the motivation to go save Loki from the time loop that he put him in. And it was that was a nice moment between the two, with him going like,
yeah.
I think it was him saying just, it's like, oh, I can't remember exactly. I can't remember what the beginning was, but I like the ending where he says like, okay, like you can be whatever you want, you know? It's like even a good guy. I think that should be said.
Yeah. Yeah. It really shows how far those two have come, even in just like 2 episodes, really. Great work on the part of Wilson and Hiddleston to really capture that friendship. This may be the first time we've seen Loki actually have a friend. That's not, I guess, his brother or family or whatever. And that was really sweet what he said. It's like, because they had this whole debate earlier about, you know, free will or it's more complicated than that. And Mobius, it's like, no, then you can be whatever you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And then shit hits the fan.
Yeah. So Renslayer, she goes to check on Sylvie first. She notices that she's clearly been somewhere because her hair was.
That wasn't first. That wasn't first.
That wasn't first. Oh, it was with Mobius first.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, my bad.
Remember, like Renslayer and her men ambush Mobius as he's walking out with Loki out of the portal.
Oh, okay, my bad. Then the Mobius and Loki come out of the portal. Renslayer's there, and he kind of just goes, "Oh, that was a conversation they had before. It's like, oh, if you can go anywhere in time, like, where would you go, and everything." And he was just kind of like, "Oh, I don't know. I like it here, basically." But in that moment, after he saves Loki, he goes, "I know exactly where I would be, where I'm supposed to be, where I used to be, probably on a jet ski," and everything. And then in that moment, they put the stick on him, and he disappears, dies. And that was actually really surprising. I was kind of like, oh wow, they did that. I really thought I was gonna make it to the end. And
I was they prune him. He's dead. I gasped, literally gasped, because no fucking way this is not the end. I was actually getting mad. Like, how dare you?
Mm-hmm.
You cannot take Owen Wilson away from us that easily, especially when he's this good. This is a crime against humanity. You can't possibly do this. This is awful. It was like, I was like, what? Literally saying that out loud when I was watching it. It's like, you cannot, no, you are not telling me this is it for Mobius. I refuse to believe that. But holy fuck, it was hard to watch. And even Renslayer, who was obviously the person who was like instigated it, you can see that she couldn't look either, which is interesting because, you know, what I like about that is, at least in this context, she's not like entirely heartless. That she, in those sequences, in that instance especially, you do see that she did cherish her friendship with Mobius, and watching him dying was obviously hard for her. Now, again, this is somebody who is very comfortable watching many, many people be dematerialized in that fashion. And then, of course, the other reaction, which is Loki, which I think he basically starts crying. What fucking luck! Like he basically got a friend who just said such a nice thing, and not 5 seconds later, he's fucking dead. No, he better not be dead. I swear to God, he better not be dead.
We'll see. But yeah,
I don't think. I mean, the thing is, like, he better not be dead. Well, we can have this when we get to the end. Go ahead.
So yeah, so they get Loki, they get Sylvie, and they're gonna take him to the Timekeepers. And again, this is a very surprising scene for me. But you know, they get to the elevator, they get down there, and you actually see the Timekeepers, like full flesh of them, and talking to them and everything, and the whole.
And you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah. At first, I was just kind of like, "Oh my god, we're doing this! Like, cool!
Yeah.
Like, we're getting into some weird shit here. That's awesome."
Yeah.
But then, like, as soon as I saw them too, I kind of went, oh, "Something's gonna happen." Like, I mean, obviously because of B-15 missing and everything, but I was just kind of like, "Okay, I think I know what's gonna happen." But they talked to them, basically being like, "How dare you destroy the sacred timeline," or something like that, blah blah blah. Sylvie, like, she's trying to, like, she thinks she's gonna die in this moment, so she tries to tell them off. But whenever she steps forward, Renslayer, like, uses the temp pad to, like, bring her back, teleport her back, I guess.
Right.
And at some point, that's not working, and you realize it's because B-15 is, like, I guess, countering it or something like that. And she just sets him free. And did she die or did she escape B-15?
We didn't. B-15. That was I had to watch it again to see what happened. I think she just gets knocked out.
Oh, okay.
I didn't see her get pruned, so she's just like I from what I saw is she was knocked unconscious.
Okay, I wasn't sure either. But yeah, so basically there's just this big fight scene between everyone, and it was nice. It was cool. I like that we got a different setting. I like the blue gradient of it and the fog and all that. It was basically the same as the planet, but it was cool. And yeah, so Sylvie managed to knock out Renslayer and everything, and they were basically like talking to the timekeepers, and they were just kind of like, I don't know what they were saying exactly. Like, were they trying to convince him not to do anything else, or were they just kind of like...
No, they were basically just saying, how dare you, screw you and your shit, and we're about to kill you, so you have any last words? That was kind of how it went down.
Yeah, and then Sylvie just, like, fucking throws one of the sticks right at one of the timekeepers, and the head pops off, and immediately you see the sparks and everything. And so that's when you realize...
Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. Are you talking about, like, after the fight, what the timekeepers were saying?
Yeah, I mean, after the fight.
Yeah, it seemed as if, like, one of them was saying, we can talk about this. Mm-hmm. Kind of like, there's no need to be so hasty about this. Like, put the fucking spear down. And then Sylvie's like, nope. And then she flings and then the top guy dies. And at first you're thinking, wait, did they just kill the timekeepers? Did they actually do it? And then, well, you can go ahead and reveal what happened.
Yeah, it's basically revealed that these dudes are just robots.
They're fucking robots.
There's no timekeepers. There's a whole bunch of questions going on. But I mean, some people kind of guess. I mean, I think we might have guessed too. Like, the whole thing could be fake. The TVA and everything. I don't know what the fuck is gonna happen next on that information. But the timekeepers are fake. The secret timeline is probably fake. I mean, who knows? I mean, I feel like it was kind of obvious. The secret timeline, at least, that might be fake because there's a multiverse. To me, there's no way you can keep track of, like, every single thing a person does, and I don't know. It seems impossible. But yeah, and so in that moment, I don't know. I can't remember what Loki's plan was, but in that moment, though, he tries to confess his love to Sylvie, or I mean, at least if you can call it love, I don't know. But it was kind of nice though, seeing him kind of struggle. He's trying to tell her something, but he even says, like, this isn't what I do. This is new for me. Just give me a minute. But in that moment though, you see his body disintegrate. He gets pruned by Renslayer. And again, this was very fucking surprising. Oh my god. And some people did theorize that Tom Hiddleston Loki was going to be out of the MCU, and we were just going to follow Sylvie Loki for the rest of the MCU, which I'm not against. Why not? I mean, maybe we can. It can be a regeneration type of thing, you know?
Yeah. Oh my goodness, so many things to say. When Renslayer was in the elevator, yeah, that was the last straw. We're like, you're just a bitch. When Sylvie was like saying, "Can you at least tell me what happened? Why I became a variant? What was the event?"
Yeah,
and she's like, "I don't remember," with the fucking smile on her face. Just to twist the knife even further. I love when Hunter B-15 comes in and like starts up the fight. Although I will say the choreography leaves much to be desired. It was okay, but it was just that. It was okay. The action, I mean, or the fight sequence, shall we say. I didn't really think much of it. I did like the design though of the damn timekeepers. Like they did have me going there for a minute. Like, wait, is this it? Is this it? Like, oh wow! And I was like, oh, this is what you guys look like. Okay. But the more I kept going, the more I was like, man, this can't be it. There's something else that we're not close to even getting to here. Then Hunter B-15 comes in and the fight breaks out. And then when one of them hits the floor, it's like, okay, it is a fucking ruse. And clearly Renslayer is in on it because she does not blink twice about the fact that they were fucking androids at all. And she continues going. And so a lot of people are thinking something. We'll get to that in a minute. But overall, Sylvie and Loki are able to overpower all of them, and they get caught off guard as Loki is expressing feelings of sorts for Sylvie, and then fucking Loki dies. And I'm like, what? What? Oh my goodness, it's like so many twists here, and it's like, wait, what? Our main character is dead? Wait, what does that mean? And so I was like, when that happened, I was like, okay, I know we're not having the rest of this show without Tom Hiddleston. And in that moment, I was like, fuck it. He's not really dead. I don't know what it is. Which is hilarious because beforehand, Loki, I think, said before he started to fight, he said himself that he has lost track of the number of times that he's died. So have I. So have I. And I guess this counts as yet another time that he died himself here. And I also love how, while horrific, obviously, how quickly Sylvie put herself together and overpowered Renslayer and kept her alive and said, fuck it, you're going to tell me everything you know now. And then it cuts to black, and then all of us are like, what did we just see? Wow. Oh my goodness. Now, as far as, before we get to the credit thing, people are thinking, now again, it's a big character. I would think it would be on the same level as Mephisto, so you know how much credibility that has in and of itself. But there are people who are saying, and I think there may be, again, I can buy into it. It is plausible. Some are saying that the character Kang is really behind the TVA because Ravonna Renslayer in the comics ends up being a romantic interest to Kang.
Okay.
So that's
I don't
what
know.
people are thinking.
I mean,
it seems too big for the show to have that character in. I mean, Jonathan Majors is the actor. He has already been cast, but that character is not supposed to come in until Ant-Man Quantumania.
Well, here's the thing. Kevin Feige has said that you don't have to watch these shows in order to understand.
Watch the movies.
In order to watch the movies or understand what's happening in the movies. And that's basically been the case for all the shows. Falcon and Winter Soldier, it's a story of him accepting the mantle of the shield of Captain America and using the shield and all that. We assumed that was already going to happen in Endgame. You can literally go to Endgame and then the next Captain America movie comes out and it's just whatever. That's what we expected. So the show, it really isn't necessary to watch at all. I mean, you could even say, you know what, this show's not canon for me. If someone says that, fine, cool.
If you're so inclined, yeah. It can fit.
Mm-hmm. And so for me to have, for them to put, what was the villain's name again? Kang. Sorry. Kang and Loki. I mean, you're gonna have to work around a lot to like not make, when he comes out in the movie, make sure you wouldn't have to see Loki, you know? And especially because, I don't know, some people say that he escapes from the quantum realm because of Loki messing with time or something. I don't know. Or
Scott Lang in Endgame? They're saying that because he's able to escape because of... Wait, what are you talking about? Who escapes the quantum realm because he's messing with time?
Well, I mean, isn't he from the quantum realm or something? I don't know.
Who? Kang?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I thought you were talking about... I thought you were talking about Endgame. Like, oh, that's how he got out of the quantum realm. No, that's because a rat decided to walk across
the
machine there.
But yeah, so I don't think Kang is involved in any way. They could do something in the end where they're kind of like, oh, the multiverse is back, or you now know about the multiverse. It's still here, and blah blah blah. And it was like, because of this knowledge, like more dangers will come or something. I don't know. And then they can hint at with No Way Home, possibly having a multiverse storyline in it. Then you can hint at Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness, and then hint at Kang. Now, the Loki show won't be the cause of Kang's reveal, but you can set it up in a way going like, more dangers will come now that people know about the multiverse and everything.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good theory too. So yeah, hell of a way to close out the episode.
Mm-hmm.
But we got a credit scene, don't we?
Yeah. Wait, one thing I want to say. I saw this video. I thought that was pretty hilarious. This guy mentioned in the first episode when you see Miss Minute, yes. That little introduction of the whole TVA thing.
Uh-huh.
And he mentioned like, oh, I can definitely see that like in the Disney ride. Like you see her and everything like in the actual line for the ride and everything. And then in this episode, he sees the timekeepers and he goes, oh, that could definitely be in a ride. Timekeepers, like you're sitting down and everything, you see them right there. Like it even is almost set up. Like you can go in the ride with them.
Sure. Yeah.
So like I don't know. I thought it was funny. It's like
they're great animatronics.
Yeah, you can. Like as soon as he mentioned it, I'm kind of like, yeah, they can totally make a ride out of the TVA. It can be. Sure. I don't know. Whatever. That was just funny. But yeah, the mid-credit scene. Basically, we see Loki. He wakes up and he goes, "Am I in hell?" And I don't know if you had the caption on, but like it was spelled HEL, not HELL. So
yeah, it was weird. Yeah.
I mean, that's how
hell.
That's how I think the Norse mythology always spelled it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Then that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Either the Norse mythology or the comics. Could be both. But
could be both.
Yeah. But basically, and then as soon as he says that, someone goes, "No, but you will be if you don't follow us." And it cuts to, I didn't know there was a fourth person. I say that in quotes, but there was a fourth person. But clearly, these are all variant Lokis. Variant Lokis or alternate Lokis? I don't know. From an alternate universe still. Who knows? But you see,
who knows what the fuck you're looking at?
Yeah.
They cut to that and you're like,
oh shit.
What? What the fuck? I guess you see old Loki, kid Loki,
alligator Loki.
Literally.
I didn't see the alligator there the first time because I was mostly distracted at old man Loki dressed
The costume.
in his costume. It's the literal comic accurate costume, which I love that these shows just keep doing these things. It's so funny. And then the guy next to him, this Loki, what I noticed though was he had like a hammer and all that. But I could be wrong. It could be, oh my gosh, oh crap, I gotta look it up actually. There's a story where there's like another Thor, I guess, popping up. And it's an alien. It looks like he looks like a horse. Okay, hold on. Beta Ray Bill. His hammer, I don't know if his hammer looks okay, never mind. It seems like okay, yeah. There's some iterations like his hammer, it's like Thor's, but it's gold and everything, and it looks more like an actual hammer with a round tip at the end of it. Not square or not like a cube shaped or anything like that. And so I don't know. I could be wrong. It could be that. I don't know. That'd be cool if it was though. That's
Richard E. Grant is old Loki. Richard Grant, he's from a lot of different projects. I recently saw him in Can You Forgive Me with Melissa McCarthy. Can You Ever Forgive Me with Melissa McCarthy. We recently saw him in The Rise of Skywalker. He was actually kind of playing Grand Moff Tarkin, or Diet Grand Moff Tarkin. He was a Legion General Pride. And then I believe we also saw him in Doctor Who. He was the Great Intelligence, I believe. In some of the episodes during season 7, and then other stuff that I'm not remembering, but he is a great actor. I love to see him pop up here. If he's supposed to be playing an older version of Loki, that is great casting.
That's cool. But yeah, he's alive. Hopefully, Mobius is also alive.
That's what I'm saying. It's like if he's alive, then I mean, like, I have to think that. But this is also a surprise because there was no mention of anything after being pruned. Like it like the effect when you see somebody being pruned is like you're being completely dematerialized, like you're done. But now I'm thinking like, okay, so are they not killing people and they're just sending them to some hellhole? Literally some hellhole? Is that where they send all the people? Yeah, like so. If I know we saw Loki variants, but are we sure it's just Loki variants, or is it all variants that are pruned that go there? And if that's the case, then we better fucking see Mobius again.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like we won't see him until the very end. I feel like they're gonna somehow reset what the TVA has done, and I actually wouldn't mind if the next time we see him, he's back in his own timeline. Like he has no idea about the TVA, and you just see him riding a jet ski. Like, let's just do that.
That is nice, but no. If we're gonna have a season 2 of this show, I need Mobius. He is such a good character. I need him around. That's what I require.
Okay. I get that. I agree. But yeah, that's the end. Again, it was really good. I love the dialogue between all these characters and all that. One thing I forgot to mention. So the Nexus events that Sylvie created, they were just fixed. I guess so, because nobody seemed to fucking give a shit about them. It looks like they were done. I'm going to assume they fixed them while we were with Loki and Sylvia and Lamentus, because they're not mentioned. They're not so much as mentioned. They're just like we start off and they've apparently been clipped away. Yeah, all the different branches. And I mean, we saw like a bunch of soldiers, like they were all like every single soldier was going through a portal, so maybe they just
if this were a longer season, I would imagine this episode would have been the TVA cleaning up that mess. But to what point ultimately that would have been to, I don't know. I mean, they fixed it.
Yeah.
And I guess that's that.
I guess.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think that's my only complaint. I mean, and the other scene, but yeah, I think that's it.
I think that's it too. I look, this is a great episode. I loved it. I want to see the next episode right now. And I think any TV show that leaves you feeling off that way, well, then that, I think, is a win. So, are we ready to wrap it up? I think we're done.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for listening. We will see you next week. Stay tuned for our top 10 show of the year and much more content when it comes to Black Widow in the weeks to come. Have a happy 4th of July. Stay under the spotlight. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.